This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. On this week's episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, I sit down with Jade Zaroff. Jade's an incredible woman who is multifaceted, multi-talented, and she is changing the world through so many facets of her life and career. Jade's mama, Marcy, was on the podcast a few months ago, which is how I had first heard about Jade. But the second I started looking into her life and work, I knew that I had to have her on this podcast. Jade is the founder of Entertainment for Change, a nonprofit organization that is helping young creatives become change makers, fostering and empowering a new generation of impact artists. Jade talks about impact artists in this episode, and it was so fascinating to me. Artists making a difference through their art. Jade does so much more too. She is a speaker, a voiceover actor, an entrepreneur. She's a Jay Shetty certified life coach. She is a QVC on-air guest. She's an advisor to the Florence Belsky Foundation, and so much more. This girl is doing so much to make a difference in the world, and you'll hear all about it in this episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast. Here's my conversation with the incredible Jade Zaroff. Jade, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Thank you. I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, you are a One Girl Revolution, and that's why I wanted to have you on. But I actually had your mom on this podcast a few months ago, and she talked about you in the episode. It's episode 214 that she was on. And so if people want to go back and listen to it. And the second that I got off with her, Jade, I was like, I have to look up Jade. And then I messaged you on Instagram immediately. I was like, who is this incredible woman? We have to have her on the podcast. So thank you so much for making the time to be on. You are a multi-talented, multifaceted woman, just like your mama. And so I don't even know where to begin with you, but I obviously want to talk about Entertainment for Change, this incredible nonprofit that you've started. You're a speaker, a voiceover actor, an entrepreneur. You're a Jay Shetty certified life coach. You're a QVC on-air guest. You're an advisor to the Florence Belsky Foundation, and so much more. I want to encourage people to go to your website to find out more about you. I was going through your website. I was like, oh my gosh, how does this girl sleep? Do you ever sleep, Jade?
I sleep more than my mom. I don't think that.
Yeah, it reminded me so much of your mom, because I was like, when I had her on the podcast, it was just, okay, we need to talk about this, and then we need to talk about this. And so I want to talk about all the things with you, especially the nonprofit organization that you run. But before we get into all of that, I would love to rewind. This podcast is really about the evolution of the person, stories, your story, how you became this multifaceted, multi-talented, incredible woman that you are today. And I know we're also always becoming who we were created to be. So I know you have a long life ahead of you and so much more to come. But I would love for you just to share a little bit about your early life, who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit about you.
Yeah. I was always a really big personality growing up. I think when you have a mom that is a powerhouse like mine, you learn that becoming that kind of a woman is something that it becomes like a goal. And I think my mom did a really good job always saying to me, be you, be authentically who you are. And who I was very theatrical. I was very expressive, animated. My brother and I were always performing for my family. So I always gravitated towards the arts at a really early age. And when my parents got divorced, I turned to art therapy very quickly. So art has been always an expression of myself in fun and exciting ways, but also has served as a really powerful tool for me and my growth and development and my mental health. And I, in parallel to having such a powerhouse mom, recognized that my path and my expression, even though fashion is in and of itself an artistic pursuit, I just always gravitated towards theater and performing. And I grew up in Florida. because my grandparents all lived there, so it made it easier to be around the family growing up, which was such a blessing in my life. I really feel so close with all of my grandparents, and just the wisdom that they provided me at such an early age, I think had such a massive impact on my life because they always, I think there's like this quintessential perspective of older people who almost are so blunt and they just share openly. So I think that was really special to me. I always like really appreciated their support and they're just like telling me how it was all the time. And then obviously, as I said, with my mom being such a powerhouse, I was raised in such a unique environment because all of my mom's friends were leaders of this natural products industry. And so I kind of was the like weird hippie girl in Florida in like a suburban neighborhood who was eating tofu chicken nuggets and seaweed snacks at like age 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. And I was like the weird one out of my friends sometimes, depending on like what the context was. I was the kid at the birthday party that wasn't eating what all the kids were eating. I was the one who was like making friends, and my mom was maybe traveling for work. And my dad was like dropping me off and my friend, like there was just different things that I think like as everybody's stories are unique. And the mixture of all of it led me to feel really passionate about using art for making a change because art made such a change on my life at such a time that I wanted it and desired it and required it. And then also growing up, I did the like more conventional theater communities, like was the president of my program. I was very, very active at a really early age. So I was just always self-reflecting and also sharing.
Yeah, well, I think that your personality and your story is so good too. And I think what strikes me even about Entertainment for Change, and we'll talk about that for sure, is we all have these gifts and talents, right? And sometimes we think like, oh, I have to follow this particular path. But in every single path, we have opportunities to do good. And so it's so striking to me about like entertainment. People think like, oh, the entertainment industry gets such a bad rap for different things. People make all this money, but it's like there is so much good happening. And even I was messaging with your mom about Hillary Swank and all the great work that Hillary is doing with your mom. And like so many people in the entertainment industry are doing so much good, but we don't often hear about it. And so people are reading People magazine and not knowing like, oh, there are all these good things happening. And so I love that you have used your talent and the work that you're doing to find opportunities for making a difference and being the change that we want to see in the world.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I think highlighting that for a young person is so important. And again, as I said with my mom, she was such a force for me that I'm so passionate about bringing forth these people in the entertainment industry for young people to go, "Oh my gosh, they care about the same things that I care about. That's cool."
Yeah, totally. So I want to talk about you went to Emerson College and then you got a degree in acting and a minor in entrepreneurship, which is fascinating to me. Tell me about that and how did you get into voiceover acting from there?
I was a musical theater major my first 2 years of college. And then I switched my major to acting with a minor in entrepreneurship going into my like halfway through my sophomore year. And the reason why I went into entrepreneurship was I thought about minors that I could potentially pursue, but was already creating and producing an event that I pitched to the school called the Emerson Green Gala, which was a celebration of Earth Day through various forms of artistic expression. That doesn't answer your question about voiceover, and I will go on a passion tangent about the Emerson Green Gala, but ultimately the pursuit of doing entrepreneurship was with a goal in mind to scale this event that I brought forth at the college. I was an eco representative. I was begging students on campus to care about the planet. I'm sure you can appreciate why I'm doing that, but it was really hard to get students' attention. And I was at a small liberal arts school going, oh my gosh, why don't we use our art for change? That's like such a no-brainer to me. Voice for acting actually is relevant to that story because I was pitching this event to various people and I was connecting with a lot of advisors at Emerson. And one of the members of the advisory council at Emerson College became a mentor for me. Him and his wife actually lived in the same neighborhood as my grandparents, so there was a close relationship there. And he basically said, if you're going to pursue an artistic career, it can be really hard, but I have a connection to a production studio, and I would love to just send you over to see if they would test you out. And I know you've never done voiceover, but maybe you can create a commercial reel with them. And then I worked with a producer named Chris, who was so kind, and he produced my very first voiceover reel. I started booking jobs, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love voiceover. This is so fun. And it's really something that was very special to me because at an early age, I was always told that I was the loud one in the classroom. And also, I was always the kid that raised my hand to read out loud. I always joke that a lot of people are like, I don't want to be the one, but I always wanted to share with my voice and use my voice as a vehicle to communicate.
I love that connection too to when you were a child. And we all have those moments too where it's like you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, that is the reason that I
That
was
makes
that
sense.
way. It makes sense. And that's the thing is like we were created to do great things and to make a difference in the world. And we were, yeah, all of us are given talents in different ways, you know, so it's like really finding those talents. And it's amazing to me, even like I look back at my life and started One Girl Revolution a couple of years ago, but I look at my own life and similar to you, there are like dots that I can see from when I was a child and even parts of my story that I'm like, oh, that was preparing me for what I was
Totally.
meant to do down the road. So I love those connecting points. And I think we all have them, but just to take a moment to reflect on them, we don't often make that time, you know, to reflect on that.
Totally. I,
So, how did Entertainment for Change come about? Was there a spark moment? Here you are doing voiceover acting and you have all these great things going on. What was the moment, or was there a moment where Entertainment for Change came to be?
when I was in college, going back to the Green Gala,
Yeah.
uh, I saw how powerful it was for students to be interacting with art for change. And I think my whole life, I really found art, like I said, to be a tool for reflection, a tool for healing, a tool for communicating. I think that the power of art therapy when you don't know, when you don't have the words to share how you're feeling and drawing something out, even as a kid, there's just so much said in something that is shared from your heart and your soul. And I think art is a way in which we can share things that I don't know we have the words for in how our heart and soul feel. And our brain can often translate that for us. But I think art, I found to be such an unbelievable method for connecting with other people. And with the Green Gala, I was like, but it also is effective and efficient and a really cool business model to actually work towards. And I think that artists inevitably use art for change more often than not. But I haven't found a lot of communities or a lot of people harnessing the like way in which we can use art to focus on the change we want to make. And I think artists are often underestimated. Art is being cut out in schools. So all of these things, to answer your question, like were always circulating in my head. And I think in college, Emerson being such a creative playground, I was able to really like play on the playground and then find which part of the playground I enjoyed playing the most. I was like, oh my gosh, I love the swing set so much. Like this is like, and Emerson really helped me and supported me in my ideas, my like what I would call like crazy ideas. And when I did the entrepreneurship minor, Luann Reeb was my professor. She's amazing. And she started the entrepreneurship minor from the ground up at Emerson. It was only in its, I think, fourth or fifth year. And the trajectory of the minor was to create a business plan by the end of the program. I graduated a year early. So at the time that I actually established the organization, I was 21, maybe 20 or 21. So I mean, transparently speaking, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, and I think that's such a cool part of being like a college student or being a young person. You're unapologetically just trying new things and doing new things. And there isn't a lot of the like fear, at least for me, that was coming up of like imposter syndrome, or I don't really know that I can like pursue this. I was just like, let's just do it all. So in the minor was when I really found the like passion and understanding of what I wanted to pursue, because the Green Gala was this event that I curated and there were over 150 students. I was, to be fair on myself, I really like asked a lot of these students to participate. I would meet all of them in coffee shops and say, like, your a cappella group would really love to do this. I know it's a new event. So I pitched it to everyone. But when the event actually happened, it was beautiful. And it was such an unbelievable experience to see so many students celebrating our planet without even realizing that that's something they wanted to do on like a Thursday night. The president of the college was part of the marketing campaign. So there were different elements of Emerson that were really intertwined. But with Entertainment for Change, I was like, how do we expand this? And I think that it's been like a question of mine, which we'll get to eventually, of like the many years that it's taken to actually hone in on how we're actually going to create that change. Because I think that it's Entertainment for Change is such a large concept. And so to actually go, okay, this is how we're going to use Entertainment for Change has been a really massive challenge for me. But in college, I just knew that I was so connected to like entertainment for change that I almost felt like I was on a mission to just figure out how we can make that happen. And everybody wants to know your business model. So the minor helped me begin that journey of what that could look like.
Watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series featuring the girl inside and in tandem on our website or on our YouTube channel today. Check out onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com today. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel for our documentaries, videos, and podcast episodes. It's the same as what I said before, where each and every one of us, we're always evolving, right? We're becoming who we were created to be. And I love that you started this nonprofit when, like you said, you didn't know what you were doing. Same as when I started One Girl Revolution. I think there's a lot of similarities, because even what I'm trying to do here with One Girl Revolution is highlight the stories of women and girls through the podcast, through documentaries, women and girls who are making a difference. And it's a massive mission. Right. So it's like, all right, how do I actually do that? Same with Entertainment for Change. It's like, how do you do that? But I think what's so beautiful to me, Jade, is that it's becoming, right? And you're allowing even people that become a part of Entertainment for Change, they're able to make an impact, and they're able to say, hey, what about if we did this? Like, you're growing and evolving just alongside the nonprofit too.
Totally. Yeah. And I love the language of becoming. I'm such a big believer in being on the journey. And I mean, that's just truth of becoming is an ever evolving, forever journey. Every single day you wake up is a new expression, experience, and way to interact with yourself and the people around you and the business you're pursuing.
Exactly. Well, and even so many people, as you were telling your story about Entertainment for Change, like so many people don't start something because they're like, I don't know how to do it, or I don't have the money, or I don't have this, or we talk ourselves out of making a difference. Or even people that are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, want to start a business. And I'm always of the mindset, just do it, like Nike, just do it and go for it. And even if it becomes something different, it's so important for us just to move forward. And that's what you've done with Entertainment for Change.
Thanks. Thank you for being the one to highlight all of this.
Yeah. Well, okay. So for people that are listening, obviously Entertainment for Change sort of explains itself, right? The title of the organization. But for people that are listening, what is Entertainment for Change? And talk about some of the work that you do.
Yeah, so Entertainment for Change is a nonprofit organization that's mission is to foster young impact artists. So impact artist is a term that I trademarked during COVID. It's an expression of empowering a young person to be an artist that is focused on making change specifically aligned to one or more of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We are providing resources, we're providing a curriculum that I have built from scratch, and we're providing community for impact artists. We are trying to allow a young person to identify as an impact artist in the long term, identify as an impact artist so that they feel like that is a way that they can be a change maker, because I think the world that we live in globally is very overwhelming. And I think at the dinner table, when you're sitting with the young person and you say, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what do you want to change about the world? These questions are really big. And it's really hard, I think, to have a young person go, this is what I'm going to change about the world. And like, this is how I'm going to change it. And my goal is to just provide one outlet of many, but one outlet where someone can feel like creativity can be a solution. And I think that it took me a long time to figure out like how to do that, right? Like I'm so passionate about using art entertainment for change. So I started out with, all right, let's get my friends like of the age of early 20s to use art for change, producing things, etc. Like older advisors, how do we do so, like what are the generational gaps that we can fill? And when I started to focus on young people during COVID, I was just so clear on the fact that if a young person at an early age is empowered to use their art for change, our goal isn't to teach them how to be a successful artist. Our goal is to strip them of the imposter syndrome of I'm not an artist or I can't make an impact, and actually combine those two terms to go, you actually can use your art for change. Let's help you work through what artistic medium you're going to use. What are you passionate about? Like, what do you care about? Maybe you don't even know the sustainable development goals. Maybe you don't even care about climate action or life on land or life below water, but maybe you do care about like how your friend feels about their gender identity. So let's focus on gender inequality. Like let's look at what you care about, why you care about it. What is your story? Similar to your podcast mission. It's like seeing a young person for who they are, stripping them of what societal norms are telling them they need to be, and going, all right, now let's create art that reflects how you feel about that. And we have different tools and techniques within the curriculum to say your emotions matter, how you feel about these things like really matter. Who you are really matters. Like what you have to say really matters. And also stressing these belief systems around this being an ever evolving journey and going, you're 15. You do not have to have this all figured out. But at least let's start asking these questions, because then these questions are what lives on with this impact artist. And the value system that we're trying to integrate into the curriculum is I'm an impact artist, and what I'm taking with me from this curriculum is not like a newfound identity of like my career path or what I'm going to be. It's who I'm becoming, and being an impact artist is like intertwined into now how I approach the world, see the world, interact with the world. And it supports a young person on their ever evolving journey to be a better person, be a good citizen, but also like with creativity as at the forefront. And within the model of the curriculum, obviously, we're shedding light on a lot of entertainers and artists that are using their art for change to allow for a younger person to go, oh, cool, like that person is singing. I feel like I'm a singer, just to have some inspiration for who they can become.
We all need to see examples, right? We need to see
Yeah.
good examples. You talked about your grandparents and your mom, and like even seeing other generations who are doing great things. And I know that's the same in the work that you're doing. It's like we all need to see people that have come before us that, oh, they're doing such and such a thing. Maybe I could do that. And maybe they're not even emulating that exact thing, but saying, oh, they're using this talent to do X, Y, and Z and be the change in this way. What am I passionate about? To your point, what am I passionate about? And how can I make an impact through the work that I'm doing?
Definitely. Definitely.
So how do you get connected to the impact artists that you work with? Do they just reach out to you? Is it a mixture of different things? How do you get connected to them?
I just launched the program at Frenchwood's Festival of the Performing Arts. It's the largest performing arts sleepaway camp in the world, and we worked with around 200 students in and out. I was there implementing the program. We're actually right now, which is helpful to be on your podcast sharing, looking to expand our program both online and in schools. So we're doing a pre-launch right now, soft launch into outreach for after school programs or charter schools or private schools that really see the value in using art for change, or just this integration of the sustainable development goals maybe in their education where they have gaps that they want to fill. And we're going to make this accessible online so that any young person can become an impact artist. we are going to do a lot of ad spend and social media strategy, because I think that so many teenagers obviously live on social media. So we're looking at strategic approaches to start to target them and start to make them feel like they want to become an impact artist too. And social media, I mean, really is the name of the game right now. But it's really about, in my opinion, connecting with, especially when we're working with teenagers, parents. I actually love, love, love connecting dots with parents and allowing a parent to go, oh my gosh, this would be so valuable for my kid in the long run. I mean, my mom was signing me up for like everything when I was younger. I'm curious about what activities you were part of too that like inspired you. But with podcasting, I think that just the activities that you're part of as a young person really shape the way that you approach your career path too one day. So my goal is to connect with a lot of parents for at least the online programming, because there are so many progressive parents that I think see the value in providing an opportunity for their kid to harness their talent. And my my way that I've connected with impact artists in the past have been partnerships. But now I really want to just be a little bit more grassroots about getting into the homes of young people and making them feel like we're on this journey with them.
It's so important, the work that you're doing and even working with young people. And I love that you shared about your mom. And I actually, it's funny that you alluded to my childhood because I feel like our moms were very much aligned. Like I was
Oh, we
telling your
have to
mom,
talk
I was like,
after the
I was like, I feel like I'm talking to my mom right now. When I was talking to your mom, because my mom was just a woman before her time, you know, doing the like crunchy, organic, like all, I mean, she just was incredible coming up with all these things in the 80s and 90s. And then similar to you, my mom was like signing us up for all different types of things. We were doing theater, and I remember doing like a stand-up comedy class, like just different things that I reflected. I'm like, oh, that prepared me for what I'm doing now. And a lot
Really.
of times parents don't know what to do, right? They think like, oh, well, I did ballet when I was little, so I'm going to put my kid in ballet. And they don't really think outside the box. And so I love that you're creating this space even for parents to say, hey, my kid has this interest. I mean, maybe they're not even talented at things, right? Like we all have those things too that we love to do, and we're just not like, I love to draw. I am terrible at drawing, Jade. My sister is an incredible like artist, but I still, it's like very relaxing for me, you know? And so it's not even that you have to be really good at something, but just creating these outlets for kids to learn and grow and evolve, you know, back to evolving to become who they were created to be.
Totally. And I love that you said that about you and your sister, because the whole point of becoming an impact artist is not to become the best of anything. It's to say, I love this. Like just and to take the weight off of a lot of the things. Because I think that we're often taught that your career needs to be super serious and your path needs to be super serious. And when you become an adult, everything becomes serious. And I think that there is truth to that. I definitely I joke with a lot of people that know me well that I joke. I'm very like, I don't take myself too seriously. I like to see the beauty and the positivity in the world, and even my big emotions. I try to find lighthearted ways of dealing with big things. You know, the founder behind every company, they inevitably are like so integrated into the company's values and mission. And I think something that I really feel passionate about with Entertainment for Change is to make changing the world fun and make using art or just being artistic and being artsy and being creative. Like one of my favorite things in the world is to be in a classroom of young artists. I was like a camp counselor for drama kids when I was younger, and just the nature of creative people or people who even have imposter syndrome around like being an artist. If you say, oh my gosh, I'm not good at that, like I don't really know that that's my thing, but even like loving it is your connection to an artistic outlet. And I think that that alone sheds light on like the kind of person that you are in how you are like sharing and just, I don't know, being an active human in life and just using art in different ways. And even if you wake up one morning and you're like, this would be helpful for me. I think that that's a choice that you're making that should be taught at an early age, is a great choice to make. I think that we're often taught, like, if you're not good enough at this, like, why are you doing it? Or if you can't monetize this, why are you doing it? And I just think there should be more freedom attached to using art in any way that we want to use it.
Totally. Well, and even I think in this new, I'll say this new chapter of life, the new chapter of this world with entrepreneurship being in the season that it is, I think that people are learning like, hey, I don't necessarily have to make money off of this thing. I just love to do it. And maybe I'll do a different job. And then that will kind of pay my bills so I can do the thing, my heart project, the thing that really drives me. And also, I think it's so important for us, back to like art, is just to create an outlet for ourselves, whether we ever do anything with it or not. You know, if you like poetry, or you just even want to like take a journal. I love taking a journal and just like writing things down, writing notes for myself, or just writing, or music, you know, find your thing. It's such an outlet. And again, like you don't have to make money necessarily from it, but that can also fuel your ability to be better at whatever your career job is. And there's such pressure on young people to choose a career path and just do it, just go for it. And now I love that it seems like the tide is kind of turning, where young people and people really of all ages are starting to realize like, oh, I don't have to just pick a career and do it for 40 years. I might jump around and try different things and see what I like to do. And then the entrepreneurship angle, where people are like, hey, I have this idea, and there's more support, I feel like, than ever. I know your mom was a woman before her time, you know, being this incredible entrepreneur, but people are really starting to do that. And what you're doing with Entertainment for Change is really opening the outlet for young people to say, you know what, I'm just interested in this and I want to see where it goes. And even if it never becomes my career or it never pays my bills, it's just my heart project that I do from time to time. I think it's so important for us to create those spaces.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think that one value that I love about the curriculum with becoming an impact artist, is falling in love with your inner artist. I think that just the connection that and the relationship that you can establish with your inner artist becomes valuable for the rest of your life, where what you're saying is so true. You don't have to say, oh, this project is going to become this thing, and if it doesn't, then my expectations will be destroyed. It's just, oh, this is my heart project. This makes me feel good. Like, why not pursue this? And so I want to give young people an avenue to know what that feels like.
Well, you are doing it. And as you were talking to, I have so many ideas of people that I need to connect you
Great.
with, or so many schools and other just individuals that I'm like, oh my gosh, they need to know about this. So
Oh,
I know, and I know our listeners also know people. So I will make sure to put all the different ways that people can get in touch with you. And I hope that everybody will follow you and follow Entertainment for Change and connect in so many different ways. But Jade, this podcast is all about stories. Of course, your story as a one girl revolution, but also the stories of the people that you're serving, the people that you're working with. And I know that you're still kind of in the early stages of many things, but is there a story or two that you could share about individuals that were impacted by the work that you do? And maybe it's when you did the launch, you know, working with 200-ish students. Maybe there's a story or two from there that if you wouldn't mind sharing.
no, not at all. Before we did the 200 plus at Frenchwoods, we, during COVID, the reason why I trademarked impact artist and we created this curriculum was I was executing on a vision I had for just a summer program, because all of the schools from COVID were shut down, and a lot of my friends that were in just theater, film, voice, just all of the different artistic career paths shut down, all of the schools shut down, all of the camps shut down, and I connected my friends to teaching classes for these young people. I was like, oh, let's just align all of these artistic classes to sustainable development goals, a lot of them being centered around how to support your mental health during that time, but also just climate action, and also Black Lives Matter was going on at the time. So we did a lot of inequality classes. And I was putting together a master class with one of these Broadway performers that a lot of people loved. And we got a message on our Instagram from I believe it was her mom that messaged us saying, I have a daughter who is in the hospital right now for cancer, and I don't know if she's going to be able to like attend this class, but I would love to give her the opportunity to attend. She loves art, but she can never really figure out like where to focus on caring about art because right now it's hard for her to care about a lot of things, etc. And we were like, oh my gosh, here's a, code, come in for free. She comes in, her mom, I believe, was there with her. She came in virtually. And then she wrote us after just the most profound note about how just being in an hour of forgetting everything that she had to be dealing with to just be creative and be artistic changed her life. And it was like such a profound experience to have because it was such an early stage of going on this journey of creating curriculum for young people. But she drew us this picture. She did pass away a couple of weeks later, and her mom wrote to us again saying how much that meant to her and how often she was talking about it. And I think that like I can go on a passion tangent, which I won't, but life is so precious and life is so short. And I think these moments like really humble humans. And in that moment, that receiving that, I mean, we connected with her mom after too on FaceTime. Like you create these connections with people that are just so indescribably valuable and on both ends. And it makes the reasons why I want to support a community of young artists is that they need this. This is a need. Like I find that Amy was the girl who was in this class. She needed to just like forget everything and use art to just express herself in for an hour. And I realized in that moment, like there are so many young people that just need this. And I think it's really hard to quantify change, but in these conversations or the drawing that I'll share with you, that is like you get that and you go, oh, I have to just keep doing that. So, and then when I did it at French Woods, there were a couple of young people who were like really afraid for our showcase that we did. We did a big impact artist showcase, and they were so afraid to get on stage and share so like openly and vulnerably a lot of the feelings they had about like feminism or climate action or, and then they went on stage and heard people clapping and got off and they like, how when you see a kid and they like are so excited they could explode in front of you and you're like, that's so cute because it makes me feel like I want to explode with you. Like that was what I was experiencing with these kids. They just wanted to explode because they felt so like exposed to the world in such a like truly authentic way. And the authenticity that art brings forth, it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm so passionate about it.
It is. It's so important as you were talking too. And I was getting choked up about the first story there. It's like so beautiful, but I think it's important for all of us, each and every one of us, no matter what age you are, to create those spaces for creativity. And creativity looks so different for every single person, right? Like even creativity might just be going for a walk in nature for some people, it doesn't even have to be necessarily creating something. It can just be like whatever kind of gives you that space for your mind to be creative or for you just to have these outlets. And I'm going to share it with you, Jade. I'll send it to you. But we have a documentary that I feel like is right up your alley, and it's called The Girl Inside. And it's
Cool.
about this professor that taught a storytelling class to incarcerated women at Cook County Jail. And it's similar to the the kids that you're talking about, where it's like nobody had ever like stopped to ask these women about their story, not about what they did to end up in Cook County Jail, but like, who are you as a person? What are your hopes and dreams when you were a little girl? What did you wish for? What did you hope for? What did you want to become? And you just see children come alive in the same way these adult women came alive when they just had the space to actually like just sit down and reconnect with who they were created to be and put pen to paper for them. But whatever these kids need to reconnect with in their creativity spaces, it's so important for those spaces to be created, and you're doing it, girl.
Thanks. And I think that just to cap that, like I think that often we underestimate the stories that are attached to young people because they haven't lived long lives yet. So we're like, oh, like what story? Do they have to share? Which silences a lot of young people because then they're just not asked questions. And I think it's really cool to start to challenge young people to self-reflect as early as possible so that they can like have conversations that are ever evolving. And I think we just are, or I find that I've seen people just go, oh, why even start asking the questions? And they become better storytellers when you're asking them the questions earlier on. So then they're able to be the ones that are like, yeah, when I, last week was feeling this way, I didn't really, and then they start to open up, but really
And just
cool.
for them to like to have someone to listen to. Some of my
Yeah.
favorite episodes off of this podcast even are like little girls that had an idea and somebody, their
Mhm.
mom or someone else listened to them and just said, okay, cool, let's do it. I'll help you figure out how to do it. And then they end up founding nonprofit organizations. One little girl was 9 years old, Jade, when she started
Wow.
a nonprofit
Cool.
organization, and they grant wishes to elderly people in senior living facilities. Like the coolest girl. And
So
now she's 16. And I think it's so important too, just for kids. A lot of times, to your point, they don't feel listened to, they don't feel heard. And if we can create these spaces where they learn how to use their talents, they learn how to use their voices, perform in front of people, even if it's scary, that it can just change their lives. It can change the trajectory of their lives.
yeah, I love that. I love that she started that, and it's true when you listen to someone, you're like, they just need support at that point.
If you're enjoying this episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, please subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We have a new inspiring episode coming out every single week, and you don't want to miss a single one. Subscribe to the One Girl Revolution podcast today. You've created this incredible network, and I can't wait to see where Entertainment for Change goes from here. But I know that you have a lot. You shared a little bit about where you go from here and the things that you're working on and getting ready to launch. Where does Entertainment for Change go from here? And maybe even let's talk about in your dream of dream worlds. What
Yeah.
impact do you hope that Entertainment for Change can have on the world?
Um, I can't wait to watch the documentary too.
You're going to love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one big vision that I have that I really want to put out into the world and is this massive showcase of young talent that is using art for change. Where there's a stage, theater girl speaks, there's a stage, and just having like a literal mic in the hands of young people where they feel listened to. And I think that that's just a really like clear picture I see in my mind where you have an audience of people that are listening to young talent that are using artistic mediums to communicate what they're trying to communicate. And I'm a big visionary person. I'm sure you got that from my mom of how she is too. She trademarked eco fashion in the 90s, and it's taken her years to really hone in on how she expresses that vision. But um it's been hard for me to create business model around such a big idea. And one thing I say often on podcasts that are more fundamental in like the hows of creating business or how teaching young people, like, how do you start a nonprofit from scratch? And I'm often like, beginning of our conversation, like sometimes you don't really know what you're doing in the beginning stages, and sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even really know what I'm about to say until I say it. So I think that like allowing the imperfection that comes with doing life is such a tool that I find has been helpful for me, and I really strive to share that. But the big vision is to do that, is to give voice to young talent that want to share, and to hold them accountable in like larger ways of creating projects that really are clearly communicating what kind of change they want. But the curriculum lends itself, which is the next step of this nonprofit. The reason why we created the curriculum is to help them do that. I think often we're like, all right, let's give them the mic. Like, what do they have to say? What do they care about? But we're like, okay, these are big, like I said, these are big questions for these young people. Like, what if they don't have the answer? Like, That's fine if they don't have the answer. But if you want the answer from them, help them figure out what the answer is and tell them that it's okay if they don't have the answer. Like, help people figure it out. Don't expect that everybody learns the same way. Don't expect that everybody sees the world the same way. Don't. So one vision is to provide voice, like an opportunity for them to voice their visions for the world. But in the interim, to give them the tools on how to do that most effectively. And I'm really excited to launch this curriculum. I've been working on it for like 2 years. We have a workbook that's 200 pages and a facilitator guide and all of these resources and assets that I never thought that I would create. But then I became super passionate about education. And I think that creative education, artistic education is something that I was passionate about art and entertainment and change. And then I was like, oh, edu educate people. And you know, I really commend and respect educators for what they do, but to just provide one option for people and have the ability to give people a pathway towards like starting to figure it out. But the answer to your question is a big stage.
Yeah,
Big
well,
stage.
you've created such a big stage, and I know it's going to just continue to grow and evolve. And I'm so excited about this curriculum. And I just was thinking about what a resource it's going to be for so many schools and educators and so many people that either, these schools, I live in the city of Detroit, a lot of schools don't have the resources for art and for some of these other creative programs. And so you're really going to be such an asset to these schools and educators and other groups and people. And I know that it's going to just grow and evolve from here. And I can't wait to see where Entertainment for Change goes from here. And we will, of course, be following and supporting in any way that we possibly can. But Jade, I also want to hear from you. You, like I said at the beginning, you are just a woman of so many talents. You're doing so many different things. How do you keep it all straight? And also, where do you go from here? What are your big hopes and dreams?
I would love to be the voice of an animation, either TV show or movie for obviously super passionate about children's media. So I think that that would be a massive just goal of mine. And so I'm becoming really active in children's media, and just learning ways to network in those worlds because especially with Entertainment for Change being a nonprofit organization, I think that obviously there are ways in which we can create media similar to what you're saying about the documentary, just expressing stories of young people in different ways, whether that be a documentary or a podcast or just always coming up with ideas around that. So learning how to do that, I think I personally am invested into. During COVID, I got my life coaching certification from the Jay Shetty Certification School just to have the skill set of life coaching because I think I'm the one that's working. I went to French Woods and worked with over the 200 students. So being able to guide them and listen actively to them and having the skill set myself, those are always things that I'm pursuing. Doing the nonprofit, I'm learning things I never thought I would even care about learning. I surely would have never logged into QuickBooks if I didn't have a nonprofit organization. So I just have new things that I'm always learning about. And then having kids of my own, like I just think kids have always been a really exciting part of my life, whether that be in the day to day or just in like bigger vision I have. I just really believe in the power of kids. And I think kids and teens just remind us to stay humble because like they are so, I feel like you hit 25 and everybody's like, you don't have everything together? Like, why are you still crying on a Monday morning? And I'm like, I don't know. And I just feeling sad. So I think we have such like expectations and pressures on ourselves. And I think kids remind us that like we are just like bigger kids all the time. That's how I feel. And I think if we just gave ourselves more grace, then and so as Jade, like I just every single day I'm learning new things about myself, about the world, about how I feel about people and my relationship to the world and people. And I think it's fun. I think being a human is fun. And it's messy, but art is also messy.
That's such all those different things right there. I feel like I was like writing notes. I was like, yeah, kids, we can learn so much from children. And even like for us, it's so important for us to think about ourselves as, little girls. Like, what were your hopes and dreams before the world started piling on to all the different things that we have on our backs every single day, and just have these moments to reconnect. And that's why creativity is so important. That's why art's so important. But also, there's so much we can learn from children, and just watching them and like the magic that they provide our world every single day. So I love all of that so much, Jade. So for people that are listening, what can they do to support your work? And then secondarily, what can they do to emulate your work? So the thing that comes to mind is like finding opportunities just to serve children in your own community, or even kids in your own family, to create these opportunities for creativity. But what can people do to support your work and get involved, I guess, in your work as well? And then what can we all do to emulate your work?
I love that question. If you can go to entertainmentforchange.com, we're going to, in the next couple weeks, have a homepage that allows you to learn more about what our goals look like to share the curriculum. So any support, any connections that you have to schools, and then any kids that would benefit from this, to do it online, that would be really helpful for us. We're actually about to launch a video that is providing a $20 gift card to anyone who's willing to just have a conversation with us, because we obviously want feedback from the people that we want to serve, and hear about their opinions on the curriculum in just real and raw ways. So that's helpful. Feedback is helpful. Would love, love, love to connect with anyone who feels at all remotely passionate about this mission. Because it's helpful to just hear people's thoughts. And to emulate this, ask a young person under the age of 21 what they're passionate about. Just say, like, go on a passion tangent about something that you love or that you're passionate about, and like observe what happens when they feel like they can just share what they're passionate about with anyone, honestly, but specifically if you want like a young person to light up. And don't get offended or take it personally if they have a reaction that isn't what you were hoping for. Because I think kids can be really blunt. So depending on the age or the personality, you might have a young person be like, that's a weird question. Don't take it, don't think that's weird. So yeah, I would say like don't take it personally. Don't like walk up to a young person in a grocery store and be like, what are you passionate about? And then get upset if they're like, why are you talking to me?
What a weirdo. Why? But no, it's so important. It's important for us to stoke these conversations. And even if like the young person has a weird reaction, I'm thinking of like different family members and like other, my little cousins and things. But it's like, even if somebody has a weird reaction, you never know what one little thing you say to someone that could just change their life, change their day, change the trajectory of their life, and even just get them to think about it. So I think it's be brave and ask that question when an opportunity presents itself, and see what happens. And even if it's a negative, or it is weird, it's an awkward interaction, you never know what that question might unlock in someone.
Totally. And sometimes they have reactions, or people have reactions because they've never been asked that before. So
Right.
to your point, like, it's changing their life because they're recognizing that like questions like that, some people do care. And if you do ask that question, to emulate, listen to the answer and actually like absorb what is shared. I am the queen of passion tangents. I do podcasts, and I always, after, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope that.
I think passion tangents are great. I think it's great. So
Thank
keep being you, girl. Keep being you. And it's so important for all of us. I
you.
think that more of us need to be that way, where it's like, find what you're passionate about. And it's okay if we have passion tangents. It's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then there are people who have the skill sets to help you focus on how to share that passion. But it takes time to figure out how to do that effectively.
Yeah. And we're evolving every single day. We're
We're
growing and
evolving.
becoming,
Still
we're
a young
becoming.
person.
who we
Yeah.
are.
Come on, be
So
mom.
yeah. Well, Jade, I will put all of the links to your social media, to Entertainment for Change, the links to the website, your website, and then also Entertainment for Change, so people can
Perfect.
easily get connected to you. And we will, of course, be following everything that you have coming out and everything you have coming up and finding ways to support you and promote it going forward. But before I let you go, I always end this podcast on 2 questions. So I'll start with the first one. You are a one girl revolution. That's why I wanted to have you on this podcast and highlight the incredible person that you are and the incredible work that you're doing. But who is a one girl revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
I mean, I can definitely say my mom. It's like if you invite someone to your wedding and then they don't invite you, you're like, I'm like, did she say me? I don't know.
I think she did say you. I was trying to remember. I think
I
she
was
did
like,
say
did
you.
my mom say me? That's gonna determine what I say next. No, I'm just kidding. My mom, obviously. I'm gonna say my grandma because my grandma's my mom's mom. My grandma on my mom's side. And the reason my grandma was of the generation that she wasn't really able to pursue, she had kids at such an early age and she didn't pursue a lot of like the career paths she definitely could have. She was on track to pursue and she was just, you know, following the path of least resistance at the time. But she is one of the smartest women, if not the smartest woman I know. And she is the kindest person. She really just reminds me that like love is everything. She shares so much love and unapologetically. And when people, are who they are, she just kills them with kindness and is continued to just like emulate that. And I think that that inspires me all the time and it makes me feel good. And I'm like, oh, that's who I want to be. Life is short. She's the best. Um, yeah, my grandma, I love her so much.
That's such a great story. And also, it's just a great reminder to all of us. And that's a big part of what this podcast is all about. Of course, we highlight female founders, but we also all have the power to, we all are, every single person is a one girl revolution. So even your grandmother, even though her life path kind of took a different, well, she followed a different path, she still is making such an impact. She is a one girl revolution. She's supporting you. She's just changing the world through her life every single day. So it's important for us to be reminded that each and every one of us is a revolution. We have the power to change the world. We don't have to necessarily found an organization or a business to do that. So,
Definitely.
last question, Jade. If you could leave, it's a big one. So, if you could
Okay.
leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
To go within. That's how I feel right now. Yeah, go within. Because I think the world, especially as a woman, is very loud. And even with both any gender, anyone, even surrounded by women, I think we live in a world that's so unbelievably powerful and beautiful that like women are supporting women. And even sometimes I think that can be glamorized in an exciting way. And then you're surrounded by women who aren't supporting you. And there's like this frustration or feeling of like what I thought that women, there's these expectations that come with that. And I think to go within, like you can answer questions yourself. You can find solutions yourself. You can find and yeah, it's really powerful to go within. I'm a big meditator. I do a lot of voiceover of meditations on an app called Insight Timer. It's like a passion project I have on the side. Um and whenever I go within, I feel okay. Um More so when people tell me like everything's okay. But when I go within, I like actually do feel okay. Just it's more peaceful. Find the peace. Find your peace within.
That is such a beautiful message to leave everyone on. And Jade, I am so grateful to have had you on the One Girl Revolution podcast. Thank you for being on the podcast and thank you for all the incredible work that you do.
I appreciate what you do. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I love your wallpaper too. I was looking at it just now and I was like,
Thanks.
that was so peaceful. I like went within and then I looked without and I was like, I feel
Yeah.
so peaceful.
Well, Jade, thank you so much. And we'll stay in touch. And I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.